One time this has happened at the salon. This is a real practical system for you to implement in your business. Really, 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 really practical. You must do this, okay? One time I had to call 911, not on a client. We've had to do that a couple times. Literally, a 101-year-old woman, this is not your system, almost died in the salon. And I have never prayed so hard. I'm like, if you're gonna die, I need you to die outside. Please don't die in the salon. She didn't die. She did later. R.I.P. Our girl G. But she did. They took her to the hospital and she died the next day. But I mean, she was 101. Amazing. And she was amazing. Like, we had a 100-year-old birthday party for her the year before at the salon. But oh my gosh. So we've had to call 911 over, people, right? 18 years of business, and stuff happens, right? But I've never had to call 911 for someone who worked for me, okay? But I did. She fainted and passed out, and we didn't know what happened. And I knew that she probably was a pretty hard drinker. There had been some signs. Like, I didn't really know her that well. My hiring processes weren't that great. But, like, look, just because you're a heavy drinker doesn't mean that you can't be a great hairdresser. And in my contract, of course, you can't come to work drunk. And as far as I knew, she wasn't. There was something after this event that tipped me off that, like, oh yeah, this isn't gonna work. And that was that there were like 3 empty wine bottles in the trash can near her station, and she had been the only person there, and she and her client basically like drank 3 bottles of wine. Maybe there was 2 clients, but it's not that kosher in my world. Like, just it's not good for liability. But anyways, so that happened a couple of weeks later. But basically, she was in liver failure, like, I think, right? She was declining, like she was really hurting herself with alcohol, and her body couldn't keep up, and so, but we had to call 911. And this was someone that had worked at the salon for a month, maybe a month, and there was some other weird stuff around, like when I hired her, there was some, like a tragedy, a real awful tragedy, and that didn't involve her, but there's so many things, and like really heartbreaking stuff, but just, it was her whole thing. I'm not getting into that because that's actually such a downer, and I don't want to talk about that. But so I didn't really know her that well, and I had been really sensitive to the things that she had just gone through in her personal life, and in general, right? Like, I didn't know her that well. Like, my interview process wasn't that intense back then. It was kind of in the days of, like, you do hair, you can pay your rent, like, please be an adult, like, no drama, and, like, we kept it at that. There were no core values at that point other than what was stated in my contract, like, on this, like, additional salon document thing, which was, like, the precipice of core values, but we just weren't there yet, right? So anyways, she freaking faints. We call 911. She worked upstairs. So this was like the spectacle of all spectacles in the salon, because we had hot firemen, so that was always so fun, and the EMTs and whatever. Somebody locked their kids in the car one time, and that was like kind of like, it wasn't hot, it was fine, and the firemen came, and that was more fun, right? Like, another time you have to call 911. Because then they just want to come in and say hi, and like, do you need a water? Like, everybody wants to flirt with firemen, right? Even the old ladies. So they have to get the stretcher, because she's like out, you guys, like, this was scary. So they have to get the stretcher up the stairs. There's one landing, but we have a ton of stairs. It's a big second story, and our ceilings are like almost, I think in one, we have kind of like a slant, but they're almost 18 feet high in one area. Like, it's not like a standard little, like, regular house second story. Like, we have freaking big ceilings. So it was a ton of stairs. It was a whole thing, and I'm panicked. I'm like, she's dying at the salon, right? Like, that's like, you're like, like, I'm gonna throw up thing. As a salon owner, like, nothing bad, like, anything can happen, just get outside, right? And so I am like, oh my gosh, so I don't know what to do, because I've never had this happen, and I wasn't prepared for it. Thankfully, her phone was there, and it was like before you locked your phone, like with a password or whatever, and we knew her husband's name, of course, and we called him, right? Like, that was easy. But you know what your system is? It's to have emergency contacts for everyone. To have them fill out if they have any medical issues. Things that, like, you would need to know, even if they're not your employee. Like, so with employees, yeah, like you have this stuff you have to ask, right? And if you have an HR department via your payroll company, they'll set you up with that kind of stuff. But like, if you are just primarily a rental salon, like you need to have emergency contacts, but also like, how about allergies and like just random things? Like one of my receptionists is crazy allergic to nuts, And like, I made some pasta salad one day and covered it in pesto, which by the way has nuts in it. Thank God she knew she's allergic to nuts and that pesto has nuts in it. But I was like, oh, this pasta salad's so good, you should try it. And she's like, puts it on her plate, and then she goes, oh wait, I can't have that. But like, if I would have just known that, like we could avoid that situation and potentially avoid that emergency. Now back in the case of this like fainting and the liver failure and all this stuff, which subsequently that was a thing, and then ultimately what happened is that bottle, the three bottles in the trash can happened like maybe 2 weeks later. And then after that, she actually went to rehab and is clean, and I don't think she does hair anymore, but you know, and she certainly doesn't work in my salon anymore, because after that she was done. I mean, she was gonna die. So she got better, and I think it was fantastic, and I don't know what happened after that, but it's been a lot of years. I'm sure I could find her like on Facebook or something, but I still have some of her clients, which is the craziest part, as my clients and of clients of the salon, because when she quit doing hair, they need a place to go, and it was like, wow, like that was so crazy. So you never know like what season is going to turn into what season and how things are going to transcend. But at the end of the day, you need to cover your rear end as a salon owner. And so having emergency contacts, and not just one, like you need a couple, because things like that, if something like that were to happen, like what do you do?